Hey, Bob Nolan here with Thought Provokers. I offer a disclaimer for this little provoker. I'm not interested in or lobbying for death, war, or even name calling. I watch enough pundits and bloggers and radio guys, most of them on the right side of the political spectrum, but I watch them all, and I have some idea of what's going on in our beloved America. I try to pay keen attention to my listening choices, because levels of integrity lead to same levels of truth. I want the truth even if it's hard to bear. Often when speaking of the alarming polarization in our country, they often end their spiel with a caution. Whatever you believe or commit to, we don't want blood in our streets. Okay. Reality is there has been blood in the streets. Not huge, but big enough to be noticed by anyone with eyes and ears, assuming they're exposed to media that covers it. I doubt if it's an exaggeration to say that 95+% of that blood, as well as property damage, comes from the left side of persuasion, or from those committed to nothing except anger and destruction. Destruction of other people's stuff, that is. Well, I don't want blood in our streets. I don't want to kill. I've never killed anybody, and I don't want to be killed. I don't intend to foster war or assault or the destruction of property, private or public, and yet my own thoughts are a little bit provoked here, and I want to get this provocation feeling off my chest today. In the American Civil War, at least 620,000 lives were lost. Some legitimate historians think the number was more like 750,000. The U.S. population was around 31 million at that time. Estimates are that close to half the casualties were not on the battlefield, but the result of sickness. All the historians admit that statistics for that time are inexact, but using those numbers, the Civil War cost the United States about 2.25% of its population. Today, the United States population is close to 350 million. If there were a civil war with similar levels of casualties, the death toll would be close to 8 million. Ugly. And who wants it? Who would want it? I'm bringing up abortion, the reality of it, the philosophies of either supporting or obstructing it, the industry of it, the financial impact of it, the repercussions of it, personal or society, the effect of it in the human uterus, fetal tissue, or human body. Since the 1973 Roe v. Wade court decision, over 62 million abortions have occurred. Of course, those are just the recorded incidents of abortion. If those unborn were all alive today, they would comprise at least 17% of the United States population. From a very large and good leader in the pro-life side of things, I understand that the unrecorded numbers could be huge. Many states do not keep records of abortions. Some very large abortion organizations report medication terminations as birth control instead of an abortion. And more than 50% of the abortions in the past few years have been medicated abortions, meaning you take drugs to induce an abortion. So the number, and therefore the percentages, probably are significantly higher. There are feelings and thoughts, even some speculations in our society, that the cultural war we're in could turn into civil war level. Not that abortion is the only issue, but it is an issue that stands by itself as more essential to a just society than any other. Some questions now. Rhetorical, but worth answering for yourself if you feel like it. I know my answers. 1. What was the Civil War fought over? 2. Was the Civil War a just and necessary war? 3. Is slavery evil? 4. Is abortion less evil than slavery? Here are some generalized but fairly accurate stats for the United States. Civil War casualties, 700,000. Remember, that's 2.25% of the population. World War I casualties, about 117,000, 0.1% of the population. World War II casualties, about 416,000, 0.3% of the population. Vietnam casualties, about 48,000, a lot of lives, but a minuscule percentage of the population. Abortion casualties since 1973. 62 million, not including the unreported ones that I mentioned just moments ago. So that number could be much higher. Again, if those humans were alive today, just the ones we know of, 17% of the population. So the combined casualties of our wars for the past 150 years are not even worth mentioning or comparing to the casualties of legalized abortion. These next questions are totally theoretical, totally rhetorical, but could they turn into practical, life-changing decisions that people like you and me might have to make? These questions pertain to the conceivability of a civil war over abortion. 1, would it be just? 2, would it be worth it? 3, would it be wrong? 4, could it happen? 5, would you join? 6, is abortion less evil than slavery? I've learned that I really don't know what I would do in a crisis situation until the crisis happens. It's easy for me to say what I do before I'm under pressure. I would do this, I would do that. But it's still a legitimate exercise to think about it, those questions, and even pray about it. Let's not be in denial or deceive ourselves into thinking that we don't have issues, abortion in particular, that are at least as egregious as those of the not-so-United States of 1860. Is abortion less evil than slavery? I'm Bob Nolan with Thought Provokers.
Eternal God, unchanging, mysterious.